Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Marty Ross, and this is another Conversations with Marty Ross MD tonight. You create these webinars with your questions, and so it's important you write questions. And at this point, even though it looks like we've got a pretty good number of attendees, I've only got one person who's posted anything. So the way that these webinars work, you create them, all right? And so the way you do that is over here on the bottom of the screen on the right-hand side, is a box where you can write your question to me, and I'll take those as many as I can tonight. Often there are more questions than I'm able to get through in one of these webinars, so just be aware of that. And I know that many of you may be aware that I have put out an announcement earlier yesterday, actually, saying that due to some negative medical board actions against my practice for managing Lyme disease, that I have decided to actually close my clinical practice. However, I still plan on maintaining these webinars. I still plan on maintaining my Treat Lyme site to educate people about all these things that I know about managing Lyme disease. And I still plan on visiting with people on the internet where I provide information that you can share with your physician or do on your own too. So I'm still staying involved. I'm not going anywhere. It's just that my medical board has made it practically impossible for me to carry on a clinical operation at this point. So anyhow, I know I've seen some comments here already that are in support, so I appreciate that. But I think what I'm going to do tonight, though, even though I see some of these comments, I'm mainly going to post questions that relate to Lyme disease so we can do this as a regular webinar tonight too. All right. So during the webinar tonight, I'm going to be creating a recording, and I will go ahead and send that recording out tomorrow morning. I am sorry to be starting late here tonight, and that may be why we're just not seeing many questions written, or everyone's in shock. I don't know, one of the two. But so I'm going to go ahead and get started, but I think I only got one question so far. And so if we only do one question and that's the end of the webinar, well, then that's the way it is tonight too. I hope that you all do take this opportunity to ask some more questions than that, though. So let me go ahead and get started here. And so while I'm doing the webinar, I'm going to post the questions. I will read them so that in the recorded version, people can hear them as well too. Okay. All right. So this is our first question. This is from Kumar. Let's see. My Lyme symptoms, mainly migrating, joint and muscle pain on and off. Tick bite was over a year ago. Currently using herbs, not pharmaceuticals. Is there a way to make sure Lyme doesn't get into my brain? Just started getting some neck stiffness and headaches last week and wondering if this requires immediate intervention. So, Kumar, it's been interesting. There have been studies done about Lyme disease and how quickly does the germ actually get into the brain. And it's actually within, I think, the first day or hours of actually getting a tick bite that the germs are already migrating into the brain, all right? So even though some people with Lyme don't have many brain symptoms, it gets throughout the whole body. So some people with Lyme mainly have symptoms that are more related to muscle pain and joint pains, or they may have more fatigue. Others may have thinking problems. But no matter who you are, the germ actually is all throughout your whole body. And that happens, I believe, within the first 24 hours. I've seen studies on it before. I'm just not remembering it in great detail right now. But other than to say that, yeah, it does pass over into the brain fairly quickly, all right? So the answer is it can get in there. Now, in terms of herbs, I guess it'd be helpful to know what you're using to kill Lyme. If it comes to herbal regimen, though, my favorite, and I've tried a number of things. I've tried Byron White formulas. I've tried the whole Cowden protocol. But of the Cowden, there actually are two herbs out of Cowden that I find the most successful, even at treating brain neurolyme. And that is to use Otoba bark extract and cat's claw. And Nutramedics has those as a product called Banderol and another one called Cemento. I don't use Nutramedics products anymore. I think I have, I'm carrying a different product line in my store now that is lower cost. And also I think is a little bit more of an effective product as well too. It's a product out of a Canadian company called Wildcraft Herbs. They're Otoba bark and they're cat's claw. And what you want to do is you want to work up to taking 30 drops of those twice a day. Those two herbs together, in my experience, work as well as any prescription antibiotics do. And they work about 85 to 90% of the time, okay? Even for neurolyme. I've actually helped people, for instance, with multiple sclerosis, Lyme, that had decided not to do prescription antibiotics and have had benefit even doing the Otoba and cat's claw, even for multiple sclerosis Lyme, for instance, okay? So if you want to know more about those two herbs, in case you're not using them and you want more information, I'm going to just do a quick screen share here for you. I think many of you who've been here before know that I'm in the process of updating the site. There should be a whole new design ready to go. My designers tell me now within about the next 2 to 3 weeks, we should be launching the new site design, which I think is going to be a bit easier and nicer to use, actually. But for now, the way you find information, I've organized everything into chapters, okay? And so in terms of the Otoba bark and the cat's claw, the way you would find those is to look at my chapter called Anti-Germs, Prescriptions and Herbs. And the article I've written about those two is somewhere down here at the bottom, I believe. That's this one. It's this one called Otoba bark extract and cat's claw tinctures. In here, I also review the research showing how effective these can be as well, too, okay? So take a look there. Another place you can get some information about those two herbs is to take a look at my treatment protocol, which is called the Ross Lyme Support Protocol. I just rewrote this about a month ago, or republished an updated version of this a month ago. And in here, there's a section in here that talks about the various herbs you might use to start or treat Lyme. So take a look at my Lyme disease treatment guideline called the Ross Lyme Support Protocol as well, too. Okay? Oh, one more thing about the Ross Lyme Support Protocol. I know it gets to be kind of long to read. Anyhow, I've got a short version, which is just the table of the supplements and herbs you would take. That's under this section here called the Earth version. That's my more limited version. And so, for instance, this is it. I basically say why you're going to use something and what it is you can use. This is an all herbal protocol to treat Lyme. That is one part of the Ross Lyme Support Protocol. Okay, so that's one thing you could take a look at. So anyhow, those are some ideas for you. Okay, oops, I didn't mean to quite get rid of that whole site. Here, just a minute. And one more thing I'll say about the treatment protocol. Although I have a table there that is about the supplements you can use to treat Lyme, it also includes a number of prescription recommendations within my protocol as well, too. Okay, so take a look at that for some guidance as well. All right, let me go back here. Information. It'd be helpful to know what herbs you're on, so if I can make some comments directly about those, but those are some things for you to think about. Okay, all right. Good luck to you. And thank you for that question. And Oscar, I just want to thank you for your comments about and support of me and my practice. I appreciate that. Hello, Randy. Let's see. I have a large amount of heavy metals, mercury, aluminum, silver, and lead. I'm doing chelation. Is it a waste if I don't get my amalgams removed? No, I disagree with that. So heavy metals, everyone, basically our heavy metals are things like aluminum, mercury, lead. There's other ones as well, too. And the way that they get into us is we either breathe them in, drink them in, or swallow them, okay? And once they get in us, they get into our bloodstream. And then from our bloodstream, they most of them get peed out, actually. We don't even keep them in us. They just get peed out. But what can happen, though, is some of those do get stored in our cells. And inside the cells, they are attracted to sulfur. And what's rich in sulfur are enzymes found in our energy factories called mitochondria. So every one of our cells has a set of 300 to 400 energy factories called mitochondria. And inside mitochondria is where sugar and fat are burned into cell fuel. Those chemical reactions are all governed by enzymes that are rich in sulfur. And if you have a buildup of heavy metals in the cells, that makes it so that your energy factories don't work correctly, okay? Because they're binding to all that sulfur, all right? So now what we are interested in knowing and seeing is how much we want to know in terms of deciding whether we're going to chelate is whether we've got an excess of heavy metals in the cells. All right. So sometimes people with heavy metals will wind up doing blood testing. Well, the trouble with blood testing is not reliable because it really is going to give you a better idea of what you've been exposed to maybe in the last 24 hours or so. Okay. If we do a hair analysis, which is what some people will do, that's giving you an idea of what you've been exposed to over about a 3-month period of time, 1 to 3 months, depending on how long your hair is, okay? But then the best way to know what's in your cells is to actually take a chelation medicine first and then collect urine over a 6-hour or 24-hour period. That's called a chelation challenge test. And by taking the chelation agent, draws those heavy metals out into your blood, okay? Now, one source of heavy metals can be mercury found in your amalgams. And what happens is our amalgams get older. As we chew, they start to break down and you get this little bit of a mercury vapor off-gassing that you then swallow down, okay? But I will tell you, it's minor compared to a lifetime of heavy metals that you might have been exposed to. So if your funds are limited, I would spend more money getting the heavy metal pool out of you using your chelation agents. And as money permits, go after your teeth eventually. But that even though if the amalgams are breaking down, they're not providing a big source of mercury going in, okay? So with heavy metals, the reason I say it can be a lifetime of things building up, once those heavy metals get in your cells, they have an elimination half-life, the time it takes for half of them to get out of 24 years, 23, 24 years, right? So you can have a bunch of small exposures over time that build up. Most of that stuff that's in your teeth is pretty much locked in there, although you may get some off-gassing. So yeah, down the road, as money allows, go after it. But your bigger priority is getting the pool of the stuff out of you that is stored away in your cells, okay? Now, I know some of my colleagues will say you can't just, or people get concerned that if you take a chelation pill, for instance, or you take IV chelation, that it somehow is going to leach the heavy metals out of your teeth, right? Well, that doesn't happen. I mean, if you swallow a pill, you're swallowing the pill that is encapsulated through your mouth. It's not going to be there to pick up mercury vapors. It's not going to be able to get anything until it gets absorbed into your bloodstream, okay? IV chelation is not going to get at the heavy metals in your teeth because there's not decent blood flow into the amalgams for it to leach those heavy metals out, all right? So in my practice, I make getting amalgams out a later priority. There's enough to worry about in this disorder up front without having to spend money getting your amalgams out. So no, I don't go for it right away. All right. Thanks for that question, Randy, and good luck to you. Hello, Craig. Let's see. Thanks for your work, Dr. Marty. Would leg rash likely come from yeast or my mold poison? And should I take psyllium husk fiber with my meds? Will they bind the medications? Thanks again for your great webinars. So I don't think psyllium fiber or husk is in a variety that is actually going to bind medications. I think you're okay doing it. It's very fibery, but not of a kind that's going to actually bind. Okay, so I have no problem with people taking medicines with psyllium husk. Regarding leg rashes, so yeast overgrowth in our intestines. Okay, so I'm talking about yeast in the intestines. Sometimes can lead to leg rashes. And the reason is when you have yeast in your intestines, they release toxins that get absorbed into the bloodstream. And there appears to be in some people that are genetically predisposed, in other words, they're genetically wired in a way that when you get this toxin and it interacts with skin, sometimes it can lead to skin rashes developing, even pimples and acne, okay? So sometimes you can get rashes that are related to yeast in your intestines. Also, yeast can sometimes give you leg rashes too, all right? Can mold poison give you, I think you're talking mold toxins, give you leg rashes? Not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen that occur before in my practice, okay? All right. And thank you for your question, Craig. Good luck to you. Hello, Thomas. Let's see. Good evening, Dr. Ross. I'm currently off of antibiotics and treating for yeast and parasites. When should I reintroduce antibiotics, and what can I use in the meantime for immune support if I cannot use mushroom extract due to yeast overgrowth? Thanks. You know, so I don't, so it depends. How can I answer this? What I would wind up doing, what I like using for immune support that is not reliant totally on mushrooms is something called transfer factor Lyme Plus. All right, so transfer factors are proteins that are manufactured by white blood cells that detect infections. And they make these proteins to talk to the white blood cells that fight infections to turn them on to treat the right infection. Okay, those are called transfer factors. And Research Nutritionals makes a transfer factor mix called transfer factor Lyme Plus, and it's predominantly made up of transfer factors that actually target Lyme and the co-infections. So Lyme, Bartonella, Babesia, Ehrlichia, Anaplasma, also picks up Mycoplasma pneumonia and Chlamydia pneumonia as well too. Okay, now you need to double check something. I'm going to do this. You can watch me do this. Okay, so I want to look at the ingredients list on the back of that real quick. So I'm going to do a quick screen share here. Purchase from Marty Ross MD supplements. If you're looking to see when I talk about curcumin or I talk about ashwagandha, if you're wondering what brands do I work with my patients, which ones have I found to be the most effective and least chance of harming a person because of fillers, for instance, take a look at my website. You'll see the things that I carry here, okay? All right, so I'm going to look at transfer factors, and the company that makes transfer factors is Research Nutritionals. So I'm just going to their page here, and I'm going to just look at the ingredients on the transfer factor Lyme Plus, or L Plus is what it's called now. It used to be called transfer factor Lyme Plus. Let me see here. But I'm trying to, I think there may be some mushrooms in here, but I think when I've looked at it before, it's not in a way that I'm worried about it. Hold on here a minute. Actually, no, this transfer factor L Plus does not have any mushrooms in it, okay? So you could, Thomas, so anyhow, transfer factor L Plus, which would target the immune system to keep fighting Lyme and the co-infections, does not have any mushrooms in it. So you'd be okay using that, okay? And again, you would use it as one pill twice a day. It's often what I'll put people on when I'm taking them off antibiotics. If I just want to pause the antibiotics for a while, I'll end up using that to stimulate the immune system to keep the germ under control. Okay? All right. So I hope that gives you some useful information there. Thank you for your question. Good luck. Hello, CJ. Hi, Dr. Ross. Can you talk about the lactic acid cycle, where it can go wrong, symptoms, and treatment? I'm not. I would need more of a context for that question, CJ. So I'm not sure how to answer that for you right now. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Let's see. Hello, Craig. Again, let's see. Would my leg rash be from my yeast or mold poison? Should I take psyllium husk fiber with my meds? Well, I think we already answered that one earlier. Hello, Carrie. Let's see. Hello, Dr. Ross. First, we support everything that you do. Thank you. Question. 12th year of Lyme disease here. Although better, I still fight it on a daily basis. My question is combination therapy. My Lyme literate medical doctor only treats with one antibiotic, ceftonir, trying to get him to treat all three forms at one time. Is that best? And bear with me here for a minute. Carrie, I just want to see if there was a second part to your question. Let's see. All right, so my question is combination therapy. My Lyme illiterate medical doctor treats with one antibiotic. Trying to get him to treat all three forms. Is that best? Yeah, I think it's best to treat all three forms of the Lyme germ at the same time. So, as many of you may know, Lyme exists in you in three forms, and also has something called biofilms that cover it up too. So, Lyme can exist as a spirochete. That's the corkscrew-looking thing that many of you have seen pictures of on the internet before. There's also a form that it lives inside of cells where the germ literally loses its coat and moves inside of the germs. And then there's another form, which is a microscopic cyst form of the germ. And then finally, these can live inside of what are called biofilm communities, a slime layer that can cover all those forms, basically. All right. Now, generally what we find is if you treat only one form at a time, what happens is some of those spirochetes, let's say you're using ceftonir, which targets spirochete Lyme only, okay? And if you treat with it, some of those spirochetes are going to convert under stress into intracellular Lyme and into the cyst form of the germ, all right? So that when you stop your ceftonir, guess what's going to happen? They're going to all go back into the spirochete form. So I find it better to treat for all three forms at the same time. And if your doctor will not treat for all three forms using other prescription antibiotics, you could add coverage yourself by working with the Otoba bark and the cat's claw that I mentioned earlier tonight too, okay? So you might just want to add those into your treatment so you get coverage for all three forms of the germ, all right? All right, good luck to you. Thank you for that question. Hello, Oscar. Let's see. Please recommend the top 3 tests from Igenex for diagnosing Lyme, Bartonella, and Babesia. Okay. So for the Lyme germ test, the top test these days out of Igenex is their test they introduced in December of 2017. It's called their immunoblot test. And what they do with an immunoblot is they are looking to see if your immune system has developed antibodies that attach to certain genetically grown proteins that are found on the covering of the Lyme germ. Okay, I hope you heard I said genetically grown. And so when they genetically grow these proteins, they actually clean out some parts of the proteins that would normally grow in a living germ to which other infection antibodies might attach. All right, so when they grow these modified Lyme proteins, these cleaned up versions, if an antibody is actually stuck on one of these proteins during the test, it means it really was made against Lyme. On the other hand, there's another test technique called a Western blot. And in a Western blot, we grow Lyme germs, living Lyme germs, and we kill them. And we take their proteins that are not genetically modified, and we see which Lyme proteins which antibodies attach to those Lyme proteins. And the problem is if we have some antibodies stuck on a few of those proteins, like the protein found at band 31 or the protein found at band 41, sometimes the antibodies that get stuck on 41 and 31 actually were made against chronic virus infections that happen to attach to some amino acid sequences found in those proteins that are also found on these viruses, okay? But the immunoblot method of growing those proteins, genetically growing those proteins, cleans out those extra amino acid sequences so that when an antibody stuck on those proteins, they're really only made against Lyme, okay? So one reason the immunoblot is better than the Western blot is you have less chance of false positive, okay? Second reason the immunoblot is better is that they use 8 strains of Lyme in developing these proteins, versus on the Western blot that's done by Igenex, they grow 2 strains of Lyme. So you get a better chance of finding the strain you might have, okay? And some of their strains are even European strains too, all right? Then if we actually look at testing that Igenex has done in-house in their own laboratory, trying to find out how accurate their tests are, the immunoblot test that they have has been shown in their own validation studies where they look to see of people known to have the illness, what percentage of samples known to have Lyme, what percent of the time are they able to accurately find Lyme in that sample, okay, or in that known case of Lyme. And the immunoblot can find it correct when it's there 91% of the time. In other words, it's called 91% sensitive. It has the ability to find the illness 91% of the time when it's there. All right. Their Western blot is around 80%, I believe, so it's a little bit lower. Okay. By comparison, the Western blot that is used by the FDA CDC test kit that labs like LabCorp or Quest use will only find it about 60 to 65% of the time. Okay. So your best Lyme test through Igenex these days is the immunoblot, followed by the Western blot. I would not do their new test called an Igenex spot or IgX spot, which is a test technique called an Ellis spot. And an Ellis spot, we're looking to see, we're trying to see if you have white blood cells called T cells that recognize Lyme. So we draw your blood, we take out your T white blood cells, and we expose them to proteins from Lyme. And we look to see, do they make cytokines, inflammation chemicals, when they're exposed to those Lyme proteins? And if they do, that means that they remember Lyme. That means they've been exposed to Lyme. Okay. All right. Now, when Igenex came out with their Ellis spot, I was really thrilled because I know, for instance, Ellis spot testing in general is supposed to be able to find infections about 85% of the time. All right. So I thought, well, perhaps that's what Igenex is going to be able to do. So Igenex went ahead and did their own internal validation studies of their test technique. And they found that I think it only detects, I think it's only about 60% of the, or actually, no, it's around 30% of the time. Their ability to find Lyme when it's there, according to their validation studies using their Ellis spot test, is only about 30%. That's pretty low. Okay, so I don't do that. All right. What I would do, though, the third test I would do for my Igenex, my number one favorite would be the immunoblot. It'll find it 91% of the time, followed by the Western blot, which will find it about 80% of the time when it's there. And then finally, I would probably, as the third test for Lyme, I would look at doing their PCR test. They call it the multiplex test. PCR is a technique we use to see, is there DNA of the germ in the sample? Okay, so is there DNA of the Lyme in the blood that you draw? Now, keep in mind, Lyme doesn't like to live in the blood, so sometimes it's hard to find the DNA of the germ in there. And so our ability to find Lyme when you have it by doing DNA studies for the germ is only 30%, right? So those would be the Lyme test. Okay, now, Bartonella and Babesia, boy, it's hard to say. I don't really have a favorite Bartonella or Babesia test, and here's why. And that is because testing is not good for Bartonella and Babesia. It doesn't matter which form you use. So Bartonella, the reason testing is poor is that we estimate that there are 30 strains of Bartonella. And depending on who you read, Buhner, as in Buhner Herbs, when he's looked at this, he's found evidence that suggests 15 of those 30 strains have been shown to be in humans. Publication out of Columbia University earlier this year says that maybe 17 strains. I think I may be tossing those two around, but different people have different ideas. But somewhere between 15 and 17 strains of Bartonella have been shown to be in humans. Okay, and there may be more. It may be all of those 30 strains can get into humans. The trouble is the testing we have only is good at detecting strains for Bartonella henselae and sometimes Bartonella quintana if you do antibody testing for those, okay? Now, Igenex, so therefore, if you can have multiple strains and your test can only pick up 2, why bother doing the testing, okay? So I make a decision to treat for Bartonella based on what the clinical symptoms suggest to me, all right? Same idea with Babesia. For Babesia, we estimate about 15 to 20 strains. Igenex can do antibody testing for 2 strains. They also have a microscope test called a FISH test, which can see laboratory evidence under the microscope if you actually have Babesia. But again, the way that they do the test, it's only looking for the 2 strains, all right? So I just prefer not to do the testing. So in determining if you might have a Bartonella or Babesia, the best thing to do is look to see, do you have a number of the symptoms of it? And if you do, you treat for it, okay? So if you want to know what those symptoms are, let me just show you. You can take a look at this later on your own. So I'm going to do a quick screen share here. So this is back in my Lyme disease resource, Treat Lyme. Take a look at the chapter called How to Diagnose. And in this chapter, there's an article called "It Could Be Bartonella or Babesia, the Symptoms and Signs." Read through that. I tell you why I don't believe in doing testing for either of these. And I also tell you what are the major symptoms that you should take a look at to suggest that you might have one of those infections. Okay? All right. Let me go back here. And I hope it gives everyone information as far as that goes. Oh, one last thing. So if you want to see some of these statistics that I just gave you about Lyme testing, there's an article that I actually have. I'll do a quick screen share again. I'm sorry, I should have done that earlier, but let me just do it real quickly here. In the Treat Lyme book, take a look at the chapter called Test. Yeah, somewhere over here. And in this chapter is an article I rewrote earlier this year, actually in January, called A Review of Lyme Infection Tests, Pass or Fail. I review the majority of testing that is out there and give you a grade as to how effective I think it may be. I review sensitivities about how useful these tests are. Okay? All right, let me go back here. Back to you. Hello, Margaret. Let's see. How can a doctor tell the difference between Lyme cardititis and heart problems resulting from babesia? So cardititis means inflammation of the heart muscle, okay? And it has when somebody has a carditis, it causes changes in the electrical pattern of the heart that we see when we do an EKG, all right? So the way that we know that somebody has a carditis is we can see some changes on the EKG pattern, all right? And we don't think of babesia as giving you those kinds of problems, actually, all right? In terms of what kind of heart problems babesia might cause, babesia primarily is going to cause some changes in the, how can I say this, the adrenaline and anti-adrenaline regulation of the heart. And so it can give you, which is called the autonomic nervous system. So sometimes when you have babesia, you can get something called dysautonomia, which means that the nervous system that's supposed to regulate your blood pressure and the parts of the nervous system that's supposed to regulate your heart rate, it doesn't work correctly. So when you stand up, you might get dizzy and pass out, for instance, okay? Or you might have periods where your heart just starts racing on its own. You might get huge adrenaline surges that give you the other symptoms of babesia, like headaches or anxiety or shortness of breath or nighttime sweats, okay? So babesia tends to give you more of heart and speed regulation issues, and also tends to give you issues that are more related to your ability to maintain your blood pressure and your heart rate, okay? This would just be some general observations. All right. Thanks for that question, Margaret. Hello, Craig. Let's see. I've been with my Lyme doctor for a year now with various treatments. Nothing has worked so far. At what point should I move on to a new doctor? And, you know, that one's hard to say because let me just give you some statistics here, okay? And this is without me even knowing the kind of things you've tried, okay? So the question would be, has he tried adequate things and is it just not working, all right? So if we look at studies about what is the average length of time it takes somebody to recover from Lyme, what the studies, it's an unpublished study, but what it tells us, and this is what I see in my practice too, is that by 3 months of treatment, 30% of people will start having noticeable improvement. By 6 months of treatment, 60% will start having noticeable improvement. And by 9 months of treatment, 90% of people will have noticeable improvement, okay? So by a year in, 90% of people are getting better, but still some people aren't, all right? So then you have to start asking, has my doctor been addressing all the things that need to be addressed, okay? And if you wonder what those are, I would take a look at my the Ross Lyme support protocol, okay? because it gives you the ideas of the various things that should have been done during your treatment already. So for instance, your doctor should have had you on an antibiotic, either herbal or prescription protocol that treated all 3 forms of the Lyme germ at the same time. And if he didn't, then you got a problem, all right? He should have been doing things to correct your sleep. He should have been doing things to lower your cytokines. He should have been doing all kinds of stuff. Take a look at the Ross Lyme support protocol. See if your doctor addressed those things. If he didn't, then it may be time to start thinking about getting a new doctor, okay? All right. Good luck to you, Craig. Hello, Kumar. Let's see, you didn't address the neck stiffness and headache part of the question. Is this something that requires immediate intervention, unlike other not so scary symptoms? So Kumar, that one, I would probably have a doctor examine you. And the reason is yes, some forms of neck stiffness can indicate that you have irritation of the spinal cord and also what's called the meninges, the covering the spinal cord, all right? And that does require a little bit more immediate intervention. But the way to get that figured out is to work with a physician to find out, is that what's going on? On the other hand, if it's mainly neck stiffness and headache due to muscle irritation from Lyme, then that doesn't require the same speed of an intervention, okay? All right, good luck to you. Hello, Val. Hold on here just a minute. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Husband being treated for Lyme, Bart, and Babesia with rifampin, Zithromax, and artemisinin. May need to stop Zithromax and artemisinin due to possibility of developing arrhythmia. What would replace them to cover all 3 infections along with rifampin? Thank you for all you do. These webinars are extremely helpful. Okay, so first of all, I have not seen artemisinin to give arrhythmia problems. Of the medicines that your husband is on, the one that would have the greatest chance of doing that would be the Zithromax, okay? So I might just stop the Zithromax first. Now keep in mind, Zithromax can take about a week to get out of the system. Stuff gets in you and stays in you for a while, okay? So if your husband stops his Zithromax and then suddenly still is having heart issues, just realize, arrhythmia issues, realize it can take a week to get that out, okay? So what I might do first, rather than stopping the artemisinin, I'd probably just stop the Zithromax and wait a week. Don't add anything else yet and see if the arrhythmias go away. If they do go away, then you can continue that artemisinin. If they don't, then the next step would be to stop the artemisinin, okay? And wait about a week. See, does that take care of the arrhythmia problem? Because it may not have to do with any of them. It just may be a separate issue altogether, okay? Now, what could you replace these with? Well, you could take Zithromax is an intracellular agent that treats both the spirochete form of the Lyme from the inside, as well as treats intracellular Lyme, Lyme that lives inside of cells. And the way that it treats both is it blocks protein production of the germ. So it makes it hard for the spirochete as well as intracellular Lyme to grow. Okay, that's what it does. All right. There's another family of medications that does the same thing, and that would be the tetracyclines, like minocycline or doxycycline. Now, they also block protein production, but they do so at a slightly different place than what the Zithromax does, for instance, okay? I probably would not use Biaxin because it's in the same family as Zithromax, and both can sometimes give heart skipping around arrhythmias, although I find a greater problem with the Biaxin than I do the Zithromax, okay? All right. Now, the way I would do the doxy is 100 milligrams twice a day, or you could do minocycline 100 milligrams twice a day, all right? All right, now, if you need to replace that artemisinin, take a look at the herb called Cryptolepis. Cryptolepis works about 80% of the time or so, and it is 5 milliliters 3 times a day. So Cryptolepis is spelled Cryptolepis. That works about 80% of the time. Another possibility you could look at is a medication called Malarone. It's an anti-malarial medicine that's got a quinine derivative in it called proquinil. It's also got another chemical in it called atovaquone. That can work well for babesia, and you would take that as a 1 pill twice a day. Sometimes insurance companies will not pay for it because they think it's only for malaria, all right? And there aren't true studies showing that it does work to treat babesia, so just be aware of that. And that will work about 85% of the time. So cryptolepis works about 80% of the time, and then Malarone would work about 85% of the time. Okay, so those are some thoughts for you. Good luck to you, and good luck to your husband. Hello, Lisa. Let's see. What are your thoughts about homeopathy as a main treatment? I'm also currently on Doxy. Does this cover Lyme, all 3 forms, along with babesia and BART? Okay, so it depends on what you mean by homeopathy, okay? Because I have seen people use that word homeopathy to mean homeopathy or to mean herbal medicine, all right? So homeopathy is not all herbs. What homeopathy is, it's a kind of alternative medicine where you take pills or powder that basically are made up of substances that would give you your problem. All right. So, for instance, many of you may be familiar with something called arnica that we use for inflammation. If we gave you large amounts of arnica, it would cause inflammation. But in homeopathy, what we do with arnica is we dilute it many, many, many times. In fact, it becomes so dilute that there isn't any of the arnica molecules in it anymore. All that's left is the energetic imprint, the energy of arnica. And then sugar is coated in that liquid, or pills are coated in that liquid, okay? All right, that's what homeopathy is, okay? It's energy medicine, all right? Now, do I think that energy medicine can get rid of babesia, Bartonella, and Lyme? The answer is no, I don't think so. Can they help turn your immune system on to fight those infections? Yes. Do I think it's enough? Probably not. I haven't seen it work. Do I think that homeopathy can help with a lot of Lyme symptoms? Yeah, it can be helpful. You need to see somebody that's very skilled at doing it, because a skilled homeopath is going to ask you a lot of questions about your symptoms, about your personality makeup, and try to tailor agents that are specific for you, okay? So do I think homeopathy is a good germ killer? No. Do I think it can turn the immune system on to a degree? Yeah, I think it can help. Do I think it can help with a lot of symptoms in Lyme? Yes. Okay. Now, if by homeopathy you mean all herbal medicine, things like cat's claw and things like otoba bark, yeah, I think you can find herbs that will treat all 3 forms of your germ, but that's not technically homeopathy. Okay. All right. So does Doxy cover Lyme? It only treats 2 forms. It treats spirochete Lyme, and it treats intracellular Lyme. Doxy is part of a babesia treatment, can be part of a babesia treatment, but it's not enough on its own to get rid of babesia. And Doxy can be part of a Bartonella treatment, but it's not enough to get rid of Bartonella. Usually I like to use 2 agents for babesia, and I like to use 2 agents for Bartonella, of which Doxy could be one of those, okay? So if you're looking for more information about what would you do to build a treatment that would treat all 3 forms of Lyme, for instance, let me do a quick screen share here. That is in the free read section, so you don't have to have a subscription for this. Is my article on Lyme disease antibiotics, basically. So it's called A Lyme Disease Antibiotic Guide, and it basically tells you which antibiotics treat which forms of the Lyme germ, and how would you go about building a treatment that covers all 3 forms, okay? And so in this section here, for instance, I tell you what the various antibiotic families are that we use and what would they do. And then down here in the 3rd section, I give you some ideas of how you would put things together to build a treatment that attacks all 3 forms of the germ. Okay, so you can take a look here and see what kind of samples I have on that. Okay, all right. In terms of combinations that treat Bartonella and combinations that treat babesia, take a look at my infection treatment plans section here. And in here, you're going to find an article called Kills Babesia or Kills Bartonella, a brief guide. That's that one there, where I talk about various combinations you can use, including those that use doxycycline to kill Bartonella. The other one you would take a look at is Kills Babesia, a brief guide. Again, in here, I present the various combinations of antimicrobials you might use, for instance, to treat Babesia too. Okay? All right. So let me go back here. Question. Hello, Joyce. Let's see, for people who cannot take doxy or other antibiotics, what can they do if they have been bitten by a tick but do not have symptoms yet? Are there herbs that kill co-infections? In my area, the main co-infections are Rocky Mountain spotted fever and ehrlichiosis. Boy. Joyce, I don't have a good solution for you because your most effective antibiotics against especially Ehrlichia and Rocky Mountain spotted fever would be the tetracyclines. There are not good acute herbs that I am aware of. Notice the word I said I am aware of, because I haven't been confronted with this issue before, that would cover both Rocky Mountain spotted fever and Ehrlichia. So I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you on that one. Okay? All right. Good luck to you, Joyce. Hello, Pat. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. My dad would like to take curcumin, 1,000 milligrams daily. He is on a number of pharmaceuticals and is concerned about whether it may conflict with any medications that you know of. So with curcumin, let me look something up here. I'll look with you. We're going to look at this at the same time. Let me do a quick screen share here. Quick. Well, try that again. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, this is the article I've written on curcumin. All right, now I think somewhere in here I talk about safety. Let's see. So it reduces the levels of a chemotherapy agent called Cytaxin. Okay, so you would not want to do it with that. It also interferes with the absorption of another chemotherapy medicine called irinotecan. Okay, you can tell I don't use that one regularly. Now, those are the only two that I have found that there are safety issues about. Okay, so I don't think there's anything else to worry about. So it appears it has some issues with two different chemotherapy agents, but that's it. And those are the two that I just talked to you about there. Okay, so I'm not aware of anything else to be concerned about. All right. Good luck to you, Pat. Or good luck to your dad, that is. Hello, Jackie. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Marty. I had at last 2 tick bites 2 weeks ago. Started Doxy today, 100 milligrams twice daily for 21 days. I'm taking a probiotic and 1,000 milligrams of curcumin 3 times daily. Last year, same situation. I took 150 milligrams for 3 weeks, then same dose again 2 weeks later. I had a strong seizure on the last day. Let's see. Which triggered a dream state seizure disorder. Should I be doing anything else to avoid a strong seizure or other hertzing? Will this fight off additional co-infections? I know you recall I have 25 years of untested Lyme. Bart and Babesia, thank you so much. That's right, I remember. You know, So what I'm going to suggest, there is no science, no one's done research on this, okay, but I'm just trying to think this one through for you. What I might try is to use curcumin to lower your cytokines, lower the inflammation that gets, inflammation chemicals that get triggered as part of a Herx reaction, as a means of trying to decrease inflammation in the brain that might lead to seizures, okay, number one. So use curcumin. I like using a product by Thorne for that called Mariva 500. It's a liposomal variety of curcumin. So it's like curcumin, it's microscopically wrapped in fat to increase absorption, okay? And it's a 500 milligram pill, and it is one pill 3 times a day, okay? All right. All right. The other thing you might do, Jackie, is to get started on some glutathione. Glutathione is a very strong antioxidant that is used by nerves and other cells in our body to repair injury, to fix injury, okay? Also, as a strong antioxidant, it decreases oxidizing agents that trigger white blood cells in us to make cytokines, okay? So it's decreasing cytokine production. And it helps your liver to remove toxins that get released when you kill Lyme germs. And those toxins could be an irritant causing some of the seizures too, okay? So the product I like for that, the thing about glutathione is you need to make sure that when you use that it is a liposomal variety. It's a microscopically wrapped in fat to increase its absorption, all right? And so the product I like for that is made by Research Nutritionals. They have a product called Tri-Fortify. They make 2 flavors, an orange and a watermelon. They've got some studies that show that it does do a good job of raising intracellular glutathione levels. Okay, so they have studies supporting it. And you would want to do 5 milliliters 1 time a day on that. If you want to be extra careful, even 2 times a day. Okay, so those would be some things you might want to consider doing to try to limit your chances of having some type of a seizure related to toxin buildup or cytokine buildup from killing Lyme germs. Okay. Those would be some thoughts. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Jackie. Hello, Fran. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. The muscle pain I have often feels like overstressed muscles, like in downhill skiing. A person in my Lyme group has come across info that Lyme can trigger latent heme enzyme problems alike in porphyria, making symptoms worse. What is your take on this issue? Thanks so much for all you've done. You know, my approach to a problem like this, and I'm not going to probably answer your question head on because I'm just going to talk through how I approach problems like this. When I see a person that has a lot of feelings of stress muscles, that like you've been exercising on downhill skiing, there's 2 things I think of. I think of magnesium, and I think of supporting the mitochondria, which are the energy factories found in the cells, okay? And so what I like to do, first of all, I would try magnesium. I would try to take about 400 to 600 milligrams of a combination of magnesium malic acid and magnesium citrate. Thorne, for instance, makes a product called magnesium citramate that has both of those in it. And you want to take about 450, maybe even 600 milligrams total at bedtime. The reason you take it at bedtime is when you take that much magnesium, it might make you sleepy, okay? But it can help to rebuild up magnesium in the muscles, all right? Try that for about a month. If that's not helping, then I might start doing some mitochondria repair work. So mitochondria, I mentioned earlier tonight, they're the energy factories found in every one of our cells. And when you have chronic Lyme, due to an overproduction of oxidizing agents by the immune system, sometimes the mitochondria coverings get damaged, okay? And if they get injured, that makes it so that the energy that's supposed to be generated inside a mitochondria does not work correctly. Those chemical reactions don't work correctly. So the one thing you can do to repair the covering of the mitochondria is a supplement called NT factor. It's made up of the fats and a few nutrients that the mitochondria need to work correctly. And I would wind up doing those as NT factor. I would start at 2 pills 3 times a day for 2 months. And then after 2 months, if a person's having some improvement, then I continue it for 4 more months, but I do it at 1 pill 3 times a day. Okay. So that's how I would go about doing that. All right. So those are 2 things I would try, Fran. I'm not a big believer in porphyria. Actually, I think it's. I know there's some people that approach Lyme as having a lot of people having that problem. I just never see much benefit from going after porphyria in most people. So these are some things I have found helpful in my practice. Okay. All right. Good luck to you. All right. Hold on here a minute, everyone. I've got a helicopter hovering outside my open window. It's making it noisy for me. I'm not sure if you can hear it. I need to close a window. Hold on just a minute here. Happen to have one of those old-time drop windows that drop down, which is kind of nice to have an office that I can get airflow in whenever I want to. But sometimes when I'm doing these, when helicopters like to fly above, I'm down by the Space Needle in Seattle, so sometimes we get a lot of action down here. And so anyhow, that got a little bit loud for me. So anyhow, I'm sorry if that was disturbing. Let me go back here. Ah, huh. Jackie, thank you for letting me know that. I think I may have made a mistake there. So that could explain why there was a little bit of a lower turnout to begin with tonight. I apologize for that, everyone. Yeah, these webinars always start at 5 p.m. I have to go back and look at that email. There was a typo. Thank you for letting me know. Hello, Thomas. Let's see. Due to difficulty of testing for Babesia and Bartonella, what would be some of the other common markers in serum that might indicate presence of these co-infections? You know, Tom, there really aren't. The way to figure out if you have Bartonella and Babesia is to look and see, do you have enough symptoms suggesting them, and then treat for them based on symptoms. So again, earlier tonight I had mentioned taking a look at the article called It Could Be Babesia or Bartonella, the signs and symptoms. Take a look at that article. I just go over those symptoms so you have a comprehensive list. And if you have a number of those symptoms, treat for those infections, basically. That's what I have found to work best in my practice. All right. Thank you for that question. Hello, Lindsay. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I was just diagnosed with Babesia from Igenex. I'm having awful air hunger to the point where I have been in and out of the hospital. Can you help? What can I do right now? So the problem, so Lindsay, so this problem of air hunger in Lyme, or in Babesia, I should say, sometimes it even occurs in Bartonella. So air hunger can occur in Babesia. It can also occur in Bartonella, okay? So there's a couple things that need to be done to make sure that you are not at any immediate risk of harm, all right? So somebody needs to do a blood count to make sure that you are making enough red blood cells to carry oxygen through your blood, okay? So make sure you haven't gotten anemic all of a sudden. Second thing that somebody needs to do is they need to put a finger clip on your finger that measures how much oxygen is in your blood to make sure that you're still getting enough oxygen in your blood, all right? And 99.99% of the time, even though somebody can feel like they're just not ever going to get enough air, when you actually put the finger clip on, it says you have high oxygen levels and your blood counts look normal, okay? So 99.99% of the time that somebody has air hunger, it is a scary feeling, but it is nothing that is causing immediate harm to you, okay? And that's hard to deal with, that feeling like you just can't get enough air, and yet you truly do get enough air in your blood, for instance, okay? So I suspect probably you've been to the emergency room and they've told you that you're getting enough air in your blood. They probably did your blood count. They probably even had you do an asthma test where you blow into a tube to see if you can move enough air to prove that you don't have asthma, all right? So unfortunately, there is not a quick fix to the feeling problem that you have of not getting enough oxygen. And even on a good Babesia treatment, it can sometimes take a month or 2 months for that feeling to get better, okay? So there's not a quick fix for it. The treatment is to start treating your Babesia with your anti-Babesia agents, okay? All right. Sorry about that, Lindsay. I wish I had a better answer for you on that, but there just isn't. Sometimes it is just toughing it out. At least I have not found a way to quickly alleviate those kind of symptoms. Okay? All right. Good luck to you. Hello, Victoria. When I signed up, it said the webinar started at 6 p.m. I know, I messed up somehow. I don't know how that happened. I apologize for it. I was here at 5. I somehow made a mistake tonight, everyone. I apologize for that. Hello, Diane. Let's see. When they test ticks, do they test for the same number of strains of Lyme, Babesia, Bartonella, etc., as with human tests available? Could they be missing strains? Thank you so much. That's a great question. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that. And I think it would depend on the lab, too. So, for instance, Igenex might do a different approach than your health department lab, for instance, too. So I'm not sure what the answer is to that one, Diane. Thanks for that question. Hello, Linda. Let's see. Good evening. I've tried cholestyramine to treat my black mold, but it made me very constipated. Can activated charcoal be an effective treatment? If so, what do you recommend for dosage and duration of the treatment? So, Linda, this is one thing I always have to actually know. So black mold is trichocethene, and one of your best agents is cholestyramine, but you might be able to work with a combination of bentonite clay and activated charcoal. And for this one, I have to look it up. So we're going to look it up together here. Let's go ahead and look it up together. So I'm going to do a quick screen share here. My site called Treat Lyme, and I'm going to look in the detox chapter. We're going to find the article I've written about mold and Lyme toxin illness. And in here, I have a section that says, depending on which toxin you have, which mold binder is the best. And let me just look that one up. Okay, so for trichocethene, I see I'm kind of circling it there in the middle of my screen. They're bound best by activated charcoal, but bentonite clay can also help. Okay, so I think that was kind of what you were asking me. So let me go back here. Information, which I've looked into before, I just don't always remember it off the top of my head. I would do activated charcoal, but I would probably combine it with some bentonite clay too. What I would probably do, so both of those tend not to be constipating the way cholestyramine can be. Of the two, activated charcoal and bentonite clay, I find bentonite clay to have greater chance of giving constipation. So what you might do is 500 milligrams of activated charcoal. I might start that at 1 pill 3 times a day. If you tolerate that, then try to go up to 2 pills 3 times a day. And then after you're on that for about a week or so, you might try to add in some bentonite clay, 500 milligrams 3 times a day. See how that works, okay? Yeah, that probably is the way that I would wind up doing that. Okay, good luck to you, Linda. Actually, we might want to be a little more cautious than that. Start a little slower. I would probably start with taking your activated charcoal. I would do 500 milligrams. I would start once in the morning. And 2 days later, if it hasn't made you worse, add it in the middle of the day. And in 2 more days later, if it hasn't made you worse, add it at night so that you eventually get on 500 milligrams 3 times a day. Okay? All right. Now, after you've done that for a few days, then add in, and if you did not get any significant worsening, then you might go to 2 pills 3 times a day. Do that for about a week. And if you don't get significant worsening, then add in your bentonite clay 500 milligrams, 1 pill 3 times a day. Okay? Now, the key thing here is if you get worse, you need to back down. You don't need to trigger a huge worsening. What happens is as you start pulling mold toxins out, the immune system sees that, movement of these toxins, and it triggers a huge increase in inflammation chemicals called cytokines, which can look just like a Herx reaction, because a Herx reaction also is an increased load of cytokines when you kill germs, okay? So you could get more body pain, more fatigue, more headaches, poor thinking. So sometimes you have to go slowly in to how aggressively you start those binders up, okay? All right. Good luck to you, Linda. Hello, Lindsay. Let's see. Also, my Lyme literate medical doctor prescribed me with minocycline, and I did not do well with it at all. Does that mean I can't do doxy? I am super sensitive. Lindsay, you may have asked me another question earlier tonight, and this may be a follow-through question. I don't remember it. Okay, just so you know. So minocycline sometimes can be harder for people to take than doxy, or both ways. Just because you reacted to one doesn't mean you will react to the other. All right. And sometimes it's worth just trying it out to see. Okay, good luck. Hello, David. Let's see. In what order and at what interval should I take the following meds in the morning? Desiccated thyroid, modified citrus pectin, cemento, and banderol. Well, that all gets to be a little messy, doesn't it? Okay, so take your desiccated thyroid first. It needs to be on an absolute empty stomach. All right, and then you want to wait half an hour. And then what I would do is take your cemento and banderol, and I would wait half an hour. And then I would take your modified citrus pectin. That's the order I would do it in. Okay? All right. Good luck to you. Hello, David. Let's see. How do you treat EBV and CMV infections? So Epstein-Barr, EBV is Epstein-Barr virus, and CMV is cytomegalovirus. Okay, all right. So the problem is we don't have true prescription antivirals that treat those. All right. So you're left having to use herbal medicines. And what I like to use to treat those, if you have active infection, is to use the herb olive leaf extract as my germ killer, as my virus killer. I start people at 500 milligrams 3 times a day. And if they don't have a Herx on that, after a week, I go up to 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. And after another week, if they don't Herx on that, then I go up to 1,500 milligrams 3 times a day. Okay. I also want to do things to stimulate the immune system to fight viruses, to be turned on to fight viruses. Okay. And what I would do for that is I would do something called transfer factor plasmic. Transfer factor plasmic is made up of proteins that target the immune system to fight certain viruses. And it so happens that Epstein-Barr and cytomegalovirus are in that. Transfer factors against cytomegalovirus and Epstein-Barr virus are in that. So you would do transfer factor plasmic, and that's PLASMYC. By Research Nutritionals, I would do 1 pill twice a day. The other thing I might do is add to that something called reishi gano mushrooms. A reishi is a mushroom that can target the turn on the antiviral part of the immune system, rev it up, if you will. All the transfer factors kind of target it to fight the right viruses. Okay, and so the ratio I would do is 400 milligrams 3 times a day. Okay, that would be my approach if you have active virus infections. All right. Okay, thank you for that question, David. Get rid of that. Hello, Lulu. Let's see. How long on average do you treat someone with Lyme disease, and is it normal to have remissions and reactivations after that? So an average length, there's a whole article I have about the statistics of Lyme, okay? And I'll show that to you here in a minute so you can read through that more. But on average to recover from Lyme is 2 years. That's average, okay? So that means that some people get better in 6 months. Some people take 3 and 4 years. Okay, it's a hard infection to treat after it becomes chronic and in you, and it's a germ that can persist even beyond antibiotics. All right. Now, when we treat somebody, and I say it's an average of 2 years, and my observation is that 90% of people can get benefit, 10% get nowhere with treatment. We really don't know why. Okay. In terms of those 90% that get benefit, the improvements can range up to 100%, but sometimes the injury created by Lyme is more permanent, and some people may only get back 60% or 80%, and there's no way of telling at the beginning who's going to get how far. All right. Okay, then in terms of remissions, so yes, we can get people into remission. All right. But even when we get a person well, maybe that's 70% well, or we get them well to some degree, and we stop treatment, there is a good chance over a 5-year period that a majority of people with Lyme will have some form of a remission. Relapse. They'll come out of remission, all right? The thing about remissions, though, and relapses after you've been in remission, is that usually that relapse, you're not back into the 2-year treatment hole all over again. You usually can turn a relapse around somewhere in about 2 to 4 months. That's been what probably more 4 months. That's been what my experience is, okay? The other thing I would let you know, too, about sometimes what looks like a relapse is not a relapse. A lot of times what those relapses are is that you wind up from having been on antibiotics, you're set up to get too many yeast living in your intestines. And if you develop too many yeast in the intestines, the immune system will see them and overproduce inflammation chemicals called cytokines, okay? And those cytokines give you all your Lyme symptoms, and therefore so cytokine excess is what Lyme symptoms really are, okay? So now if you get too many yeast living in your intestines, guess what? It can make it look like you have a Lyme relapse, but the real problem is it's just yeast in there triggering cytokine excess too, okay? All right. Thanks for that question, Lulu. Hello, Courtney. Let's see. I have muscular dystrophy, and I have worked hard my entire life to keep myself as physically strong as possible. Luckily, I have a mild case. Now that I have chronic Lyme and Babesia, newly diagnosed, have not found a doctor to treat me yet, what's the best treatment for me to avoid muscle loss? So, Courtney, I haven't had a situation where I've treated somebody with muscular dystrophy and Lyme. It is something that as I would start treatment, I would be making sure that my antibiotics that I use do not specifically lead to that, okay? But I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up on a case-by-case basis. I don't know the answer off the top of my head for you. That's something I'd have to investigate more. If you were my patient, for instance, I would investigate it first. All right. Thanks for your question. Good luck to you. Hello, Victoria. So sorry, Dr. Ross. You have helped so many people and give so much to the Lyme community. It's a crime that they are doing this to you in your practice. Thank you for it. You're welcome. So I think many of you, I announced at the beginning of the practice tonight that my medical board has made it impossible for me to keep practicing and treating Lyme disease. And so I'm actually going to be closing the doors to the clinical aspects of my practice, seeing patients in my office, that is, in about 2 months. However, I'm still going to keep educating people in these webinars. I have a lot of wealth of information I want to keep sharing. I'm going to keep Treat Lyme going. I'm going to keep my supplement store going. And I'm going to still keep doing my one-to-one consult visits where I can visit with people over the internet and give advice, but I cannot formally diagnose and I cannot prescribe or order tests that way too, okay? But I plan on staying heavily involved here. All right. Thank you, Victoria. Hello, Andrea. Hi, Dr. Ross. I've been unable to treat with antibiotics due to oral thrush. I am... All right, let's try again here. Here it is. Let's see. Sorry, I think my first question was cut off. I am unable to take antibiotics due to oral thrush. I am taking nystatin and low probiotics, but probiotics cause my SIBO to get worse. I feel lost. I have Lyme, Babesia, Bartonella, EBV, chlamydia. Let me see, there's more to this. Nope. Okay. So Andrea, what I would do, probably your best agent to get rid of thrush is not nystatin, it's diflucan. So that I would probably get started on oral diflucan. You can either do it as a direct liquid that you swish and swallow, or you can do the pill, and in a pill form, it gets into your bloodstream, goes back to your mouth through your bloodstream, okay? But if your nystatin is not working, then I would go ahead and take some diflucan, okay? All right. Good luck to you with that. Let's see here. Hello, Katrina. Let's see. Good evening, doctor. Good evening. I have developed a strange sunken burning spots on top of my skull that sometimes change in size. Can you explain what the Lyme is the cause and why this burning feeling? Thanks, Kat. So burning sensations usually means nerve injury or neuropathy. Lyme can do that. Bartonella sometimes can do that. I would need to ask a lot more questions to figure out which one of those it is, but those are some thoughts for you. Okay? All right. Good luck to you, Katrina. Hello, Courtney. Let's see. Sorry, let me start. Oh, hello. I took your answer your question earlier there. Yep. All right. Let me get rid of that. Hello, Terry. Let's see here. What is the best treatment for the crawling under the skin feeling? So that kind of crawling under the skin is something I have found to occur in Bartonella. All right. So the treatment, number one, is make sure you're on a treatment that is dealing Bartonella. That would be one thought I would have. Beyond that, I don't. You want to lower cytokines. You want to use the curcumin I talk about in my treatment protocol. Because it is a neurologic symptom, sometimes you can regulate those neurologic sensations by taking something called L-theanine. L-theanine is a component of green tea. It's not caffeine, though, and it's turned into a chemical in the brain called GABA. GABA, in our brain, we have a group of nerve receptors called GABA benzodiazepine receptors. And if you give more GABA to a GABA benzodiazepine receptor, guess what? It calms that agitated nerve down, including those ones that are giving that crawling kind of sensation. If you were to try it, it would. I don't have any science that says it actually works in this specific condition, but if you were to try it, I would try it as a 100 milligram pill 3 times a day, and you might try to increase that all the way up to 300 milligrams 3 times a day. Okay, so it's called L-theanine, Theanine. All right. Good luck to you, Terry. Hello, Shirley. Let's see. Dr. Marty, I'm so sorry to hear what you are going through. Will you still be treating patients with herbs? Yes, I will. Again, it would be through my consult service, though. I won't be able to do prescriptions anymore once I close my practice because of the negative board actions, and I won't be able to order anything. And technically, I won't be able to diagnose. Only physicians can diagnose that are licensed, but I'll be able to describe things in terms of probability. I'll say, you have a high probability of this. And these are things I have found helpful in my practice. So that's kind of how we'll work in the future. Okay? All right. Thank you, Shirley. So many of you, if you're wondering, what am I talking about by this consult service? I'm going to just do a quick screen share here. So there are 2 ways that I visit with people. There's where I prescribe, I order blood tests, etc. Okay? There's another way to visit with me, which is this online consult. And you'll have to see if this works for you. But in it, I still give you advice, and it's information for you and for you to share with your physician. But your physician is the one that's responsible for ordering any blood test or for ordering any laboratory test or prescriptions that might be needed, okay? And because it is a consult and I haven't visited with you in my office, I can't formally diagnose, but I can describe things in terms of odds that you might have it, okay? So take a look here, see if this one is something that would work for you. But it truly is a consulting service where you still are going to need to have another physician probably to do blood testing and prescribing if that is needed. Okay? All right. Let me go back here. Hello, Brittany. Let's see. I tested positive for Lyme, Babesia, and Bartonella through my Igenex test 1 year ago. We were able to identify a tick bite from 10 months prior to the test. I began the Byron-Wright protocol and have had moderate success. Should I be integrating antibiotics? If so, when and what do you recommend? So first of all, I generally don't find much success with Byron-White. So I would, that's been my history, okay? I generally find there are better ways of treating Lyme, there are better ways of treating Babesia, and there's better ways of treating Bartonella. And what I would suggest, if take a look, if you want to know what my starting herbal options would be for those, take a look at the Ross Lyme Support Protocol. You'll find it on my treatment guidelines tab at treatlyme.net. Read through there. You'll see down at the bottom, some of the last steps are the herbs I recommend for Lyme, and the herbs I recommend for Bartonella, and the herbs I recommend for Babesia. I find those are all better approaches than actually doing Byron-White. Also, through that part of my Ross Lyme Support Protocol, there's links to prescription options that you might take a look at as well too, Brittany. All right? All right. Good luck to you. Thank you for that question. Hello, Katrina. Good evening, doctor. What is your take on the possible link of Bartonella and OCD? Yeah, I think Bartonella can trigger OCD. Bartonella has the ability to trigger a lot of neuropsych symptoms like bad depression, bad anxiety, OCD, hallucinations, rage episodes. When people have those kind of symptoms, I'm already wondering, could Bartonella be part of it? Okay, so yes, I do think it can. Thank you for that question. Hello, Lulu. Hugs to your dogs. Boy, they've been slackers here tonight. I haven't even seen them bounce around back there once. So everyone, you may be familiar, I bring my two Basenjis to work with me here. And one of them is over on my exam table just sleeping away right now. And the other one is in the kennel under my desk. So they haven't been too active, but they will be soon. They're going to eventually start looking at me saying it's time. So anyhow, thank you. Hello, Heidi. So sorry to hear about your license. Can we do anything to help you? Why is it that good doctors get their licenses taken away? This needs to stop. Let us know if we can help and bring awareness to this. What a disgrace. Heidi, thank you. I appreciate the support. I've been in a 3-year war battle with my medical board, and they're not letting go. And unfortunately, they don't care what my patients think. In the case that was brought to their attention a few years ago, pharmacists reported me for the way I was using some medications. And the patient did not lodge the complaint. The pharmacy did. The patient went from being in hospice to now trying to get pregnant. Okay, she's thriving. All right. And so I looked at my board. I talked to them. I said, where was the harm in what I did? This woman got better. What's the harm? And they wouldn't even take a letter from her. She was so appalled by it, she wrote a letter in support. They wouldn't even consider it. So my board is just blind to considering what happens with real people with these illnesses. So I appreciate your support, but I know a lot of people have written me today too saying, what can I do? There really isn't much, unfortunately. And so I can read the writing on the wall, and yeah, that's where we are. But thank you for your support. I appreciate that. And just so you know, it isn't that I'm giving up. I have fought for 3 years for this, and I know that they've got me cornered in a way that they're not going to be able to let me go at this point. And it's mainly because of an infectious disease doctor on the board that hates that I treat Lyme, and a psychiatrist that is just not happy with the fact that I use alternative medicines. They're just not, and they're not letting go, unfortunately. But thank you very much. Hello, Fran. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Do you know, can L-arginine supplementation help repair endothelial dysfunction from Bartonella? I know it's a protein food, but it's enough to repair and replace damaged cells in the circulatory system. its supplements would help and at what dose. So L-arginine is an amino or is a protein-like substance that can help do some vasodilation. It can help dilate blood vessels. I don't think it's necessarily going to repair the damage to the cells, though. Okay, I have not used it before as a means of dilating blood vessels. I'm not aware of whether it does give great benefit in this disorder or not, to be honest with you. Okay, all right. Thanks for that question, Fran. Why don't you join the board? That's a good question. They won't let me because they have to. With my license already damaged here in the state of Washington, they would not take me on my board. All right, and so it's damaged because of this case that's been going on for 3 years. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. Did the lady you helped that was in hospice have Lyme? She actually had mold toxicity, illness, and Lyme. She had the double whammy. And so she had both, and she's doing a lot better now these days. Thank you for asking. Let's see here. All right. Believe it or not, everyone, it's 6:30. I am sorry to those of you that showed up thinking our webinar started at 6. It actually started at 5. I think I may have done something wrong in how I programmed it. Next week, we'll have another one, and it does start at 5. I will make sure I've got that correct here after the webinar is over. I hope you will sign up and join me then. Keep your eyes out in your email tomorrow morning, somewhere around 6:30 in the morning. There should be an email from me notifying you that the recording is available for the webinar, and that will give you information about how you can view it too. All right. Here in a second, for those of you that are still here, I'm going to sign off. And as I sign off, you're going to be directed over to the Treat Lyme site. I appreciate it if you subscribe to my information. That helps support my work to be able to keep doing this. And now that I'm not going to be having direct patient care, that's going to become more important than ever, that you support. If you want to keep having my help, keep supporting that work. Okay, so I'd appreciate if you would subscribe to the Treat Lyme book, so I keep producing that as well as keep doing these webinars as well too. All right, good night, everyone.